One of the other things you say that America needs to do to save itself is we need to close the borders, and you kind of agree with Ann Coulter on this issue. You think that we need to stop immigration altogether at this point.
The immigration debate is drowning in platitudes, and Ann is going up against this every night on TV, where she has all the numbers, even though it's a nightmare to get the numbers because Carlos Slim over at the New York Times has made it impossible to look them up. But she's burrowed away there like a little naked mole rat, and she's dug up things like 50% of the murders in Texas were linked to illegal aliens. She gets all this data, she presents it to people, and they go, yes, but Ann, yo soy Latino. The Latino people are wonderful people, and my family came here, and my father worked very, very hard, and he made a better life for America. And you're like, what is this, a children's book? We're trying to talk about research here. We're trying to talk about facts, and it's always, and can I give you a hug? I want you to know that Latino people from Nicaragua are wonderful people. And you're like, you can't even speak English properly.
Okay, well,
no,
wait,
I'm not giving you a hug.
Wait 1 second, Gavin, because here's where I have a little problem with this. You and I are both Canadian. We're both immigrants.
Yes.
I'm an immigrant. I immigrated at the age of 17. It took a really long time. I mean, I know that the immigration process in this country is completely convoluted, and I do believe it needs to be reformed. But what happens to people like you and me if we close the borders? We're just the lucky ones and we got in under the gun, or?
Yeah, well, we're the unlucky ones in a sense because we were punished for following the rules. It took me 10 years and cost me 10 grand.
Oh my gosh, exactly the same here. 10 years, 10 grand. Yes.
Could have snuck over the Rio del Grande for $5 and it dressed as Osama bin Laden like James O'Keefe did.
And we would have got national attention for it too. Instead, we just got stuck with our lawyer bills. Yeah, so I mean, yeah, so there is that element of it. Look, this is unfair to people who do wait in line for the process.
Yeah, the good immigrants, the ones that would benefit the country, probably represent less than 1% if you include illegals. We're up to 30 million illegals. So we have, if we're not going to completely close the borders, which is what would work, how about just a little bit of attrition? Just make it a little bit harder to hire illegals, and you'll see them leave in droves. And you get platitudes like, oh, America couldn't survive without Mexicans. They pick our fruit. I've been to a country without Mexicans. It's called Canada, and there's things called teenagers. That's who cleans your pool and does your landscaping in Canada. And they grow up with an economic libido. The teenagers here, they can barely get out of bed.
Yeah.
They play their Xbox and scream at their mom on the phone like this kid Milo was doing yesterday, one of my interns.
Well, I always say, you know, I have a teenage son, and I want, you know, when my husband and I were kids, we had jobs as, like you say, cleaning the pools. I was a maid. My husband delivered newspapers, and now those jobs are for adults, illegal immigrants. And not only that, now those jobs are becoming $15 an hour jobs. So we're not only, this isn't just a crisis of crime, but it's also a crisis of raising young children with work ethic in this country and available starter jobs for people.
But are you seeing a pattern here? Both of these things come from the destruction of the American family. We got rid of dads, we brought in nannies to do the loving, we brought in illegals to do the work, the teenage work, the chores. So we just sabotaged the family, and the problem with that is they always replace it with nothing. They say, oh, we got a way better plan. We're going to reinvent marriage. We're going to reinvent what a family is. And then they come up with a big pile of excrement and go, what do you think?
Well, what you bring up a
and
really...
you go, I'm not eating that.
You bring up a really good point, and this is another one of your points that you make in this rant. They do replace it with something. They replace it with welfare. And you say we need to stop that. And as a Black American myself, and having lived in the community and served my community, I do believe that welfare is a huge part of why 73% of our children are born to single-parent homes. And it's not an accident that our crime rate is so high in the Black community right now. Welfare has replaced the family, replaced the need for fathers, and that's been detrimental to Americans in general.
Well, you know, you don't have a dad to hit you upside the head, and you have Puerto Ricans in my neighborhood going to get pedicures and getting their hair cut 3 times a day. They have idle hands, and what are idle hands? The devil's plaything. So they almost, by lack of choice, they just wander into the drug war, and that's why we have 2.2 million people incarcerated, more than all other countries combined.